What's going on, you guys? The Demigod back on Demigod ENT, and look, bro, time to give you another movie review. So today we're gonna be doing a movie review for A Quiet Place Part 2. Now, I went to see this movie opening day, and man, was it fantastic. Very similar to the first one with the whole theater experience here. Of course, during the first movie, if you witnessed the first movie in theater, then you know what I'm talking about right here when I say this. It's a very unique experience getting to see A Quiet Place Part 1 and Part 2 in theater. Very, very different from in the home, because if you've seen these movies, you know they just completely cut the sound off during certain scenes, and it really drives up the tension when you're just watching something intense play out on screen with no sound there. Everyone in the theater is dead silent. No one even wants to eat any popcorn. No one wants to make any noise, drink their drink, or anything. Everyone is on mute as we all are watching the scene play out in front of us, and no one wants to be that guy in the theater that breaks the silence, right? So with that being said, this is going to be a non-spoiler review. I'm going to go over the plot, the characters, the cast, the crew, the director, certain plot points that are non-spoilery, like just hinting around certain things. And then, of course, I'm going to score it at the end there out of 10. So stick around for that. Stick around to the end to see what I score A Quiet Place Part 2. But anyway, let's get into the review. Let's go. Now, this movie was directed by John Krasinski, and man, let me tell you, he did a fantastic job with this film. I heavily enjoyed my experience here, very similar to the first one. I feel like they're neck and neck, you know, I really like both movies. And now let's go ahead and get into the plot. So, the plot of this movie is: following the deadly events at home, the Abbott family must now face the terrors of the outside world as they continue their fight for survival in silence. Forced to venture into the unknown, they quickly realize that the creatures that hunt by sound are not the only threats that lurk beyond the sand path. Now, of course, during this movie, we get a nice blend of the past and the future, which you should know if you've seen any of the trailers or anything put out about this movie before the film officially drops. So, we get to see just how the apocalypse starts and breaks out, and just how the events unroll, and how we ended up at the first movie pretty much. And then we go ahead and skip ahead to the future, and then, of course, see after the events of what took place in the first movie. So, opening scene of this movie, man, I really love the way that this movie opened. It was brilliant. I really loved how everything played out, how they set everything up, and everything really makes sense as to how we got through to the first movie and how the first movie started, because of course when the first movie starts, we're already in the midst of an apocalypse. So just seeing those events play out on screen and how they handled those events, man, it was terrifying. This is a fantastic thriller. I'm not sure if I would put this in the horror genre. Maybe I would, but I'd say that this is more on the thriller side, right? And then, of course, after that opening scene, they roll the title cards and we get into our first act. I really love how the first act of this movie played out. First, second, and third act of this movie, I thought they were all fine. I thought it was all perfect, actually. This movie didn't drag at all during this. Everything was seamless. It all connected together really nicely. The characters, I felt like they weren't making any, like, overly dumb decisions that sometimes get made inside these movies. Everything made sense, it was cohesive, and it was brilliant. That is the one word that I would like to define this movie as, is brilliant. So, as you can tell, I really enjoyed the plot of this movie. I really loved the way the writing was done. I really loved the way everything played out. From start to finish, I enjoyed my entire theater experience. This movie isn't even too long. It's like an hour and 45 minutes, so really everything's happening pretty fast. Everything is going through just as it needs to. And so with all that being said, we're done with the plot. Let's go ahead and talk about the characters. So, what I feel is very special about this movie is that the father of the cast, John Krasinski, plays Lee Abbott, and he also directs the film. So we have the director also starring in one of the main roles, and I feel like that's very special there because you rarely see that happen inside movies, and for him to do a fantastic job on both sides of the camera, behind and in front of it, it's just something special that you rarely get to witness on film, right? So John Krasinski did a fantastic job directing this movie, acting in this movie, playing that father figure role just as he did in the first movie. Of course, spoilers for A Quiet Place Part 1. We're not going to spoil Part 2, but you should have seen Part 1 by now. Overall, John Krasinski does a fantastic job, especially with the sacrifice at the end of Part 1, right? So, getting into our next character, played by Emily Blunt, the mother of the family. She plays Evelyn Abbott. Now, she does a great job. I would say that she is kind of like the lead role in these movies, right? Because of course during the first movie she was having her child, and then of course in the second movie, Part 2, we're dealing with just exactly how she's going to handle raising a child within an apocalypse, and especially a baby, which, as you know, babies could be pretty noisy. So in a horror film, a thriller where you can't make any sound at all and you have a noisy baby with you, there's definitely some tension that's gonna rise, right? So all in all, she does a great job taking care of her children, playing that mother role, really caring for her youth and for her 3 children that she has to look after in this movie and guide them through very tragic and drastic circumstances, being that they're in the middle of an apocalypse, and especially having to raise a child who has a disability within this apocalypse, which actually plays perfectly into the whole scenario. If anything, she's at an advantage because, of course, she's like a master at sign language, which is the perfect type of language that you would need during an apocalypse. If anything, everyone who is surviving in this post-apocalyptic world should know sign language by this point. But anyway, getting into our next character here, Cillian Murphy. Now, Cillian Murphy within this movie plays a family friend, Emmett, and Cillian Murphy, of course, I know him personally from The Dark Knight. Within The Dark Knight, he was basically one of Joker's henchmen, right? The one that Harvey Dent was torturing in the alleyway.
James. How's that feel? I wouldn't!
Hopefully that refreshed some memories for y'all so that you can know who I'm talking about. But as this family friend character, he's a bit hesitant at first to get involved with them and to help them. And just overall, I'd say he did a good job. Now, going to the 2 children characters, the deaf daughter and then the son, they do a pretty good job in here. You know, usually child actors are a bit iffy and they're a bit hit or miss inside certain movies, but they did a pretty good job here. And then, of course, our last important member of this cast, the baby did a fine job. Not like it really had much to do, right? So, with all that being said there, would I recommend this movie? Absolutely. Go watch this movie. Go support this movie. Go help out the box office numbers for this movie so we can get a part 3 of this, because you know damn well we're going to need a part 3 of this. This is a fantastic universe that they're building here. Fantastic world building. A very unique way to handle a movie in an apocalypse. And I just really love A Quiet Place. I love part 1. I love part 2. This needs to be seen at the cinemas. I highly recommend it. Go watch it. So, what would I rate this movie? I'm going to give A Quiet Place Part 2 a 10 out of 10. There it is, 10 out of 10. I rarely give 10 out of 10s on this channel. Out of all my movie reviews, I've never given a 10 out of 10 before, I don't believe. So this is my very first 10 out of 10 on the channel, and it goes to A Quiet Place Part 2. A very deserving movie for that score, definitely. So, that brings us to the end of our review. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section down below, what you guys thought about this movie. I'd love to start a discussion in the comments and, you know, talk back and forth about what you guys really thought about this. Maybe I'll do a spoiler review for this, because there's definitely some things to talk about in the spoiler department. A lot of things to talk about in the spoiler department. I haven't decided yet, but just look out for the channel for that. And so, if you don't know what I do here on Demigod ENT, I do trailer reactions, show reactions, movie reviews, movie news, and unboxing videos. So, if you're interested in any of that, in the right place, man, hit subscribe, hit the like button, show this video some love. I drop multiple videos a day on this channel, so that's what you can expect out of me. And if you don't already know, I am the Demigod, the chosen one here on Demigod ENT. And I'm out of this thing, man. I appreciate y'all for watching. More videos coming soon. Stay tuned. Peace.